did, the meditation, the breath area in it for hello everybody, this is Ryan over High Carb Generator. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm actually going to be going over a comment that somebody asked me to discuss in one of my videos, and that is things that you cut out of your diet. I'm going to list 3. I'm also going to give one that I kind of added back in, but not to not a ton of it. So the number 1 is overt fats. Now you can't cut fat out of bananas. You can't cut fat out of rice. You can't cut fat out of most things, obviously, but I don't add any oil. I don't add any avocado. I don't add any nuts. I don't add any kind of fat, like tofu. I don't really add. Somebody asked me to do a video about tofu. I don't really eat tofu. Never really did. It's kind of not digestively very great for me, so I just don't bother with it. All of these kind of things. So as you go along, you notice that the fat that you add in is going to hinder your performance. It's going to hinder your ability to lose fat, because obviously the fat you eat is the fat you wear. That was coined by McDougall, and it's true. The fat you eat is the fat you wear. Your body just takes it and it stores it. And that's what it does. It doesn't have to do anything to fat to just store it. Like McDougall said, they could do a biopsy of anywhere on your body and they can tell you what kind of fat that you eat, because your body doesn't change it. It just literally plugs it into the fat that you already have on your body, and it just it stays there until you need it. When you get down to like 10 grams of fat or less, if you can do it, I know that's even hard for me. Even with just rice, bananas, just regular stuff, nothing with fat in it, I'm usually around the 11 to 12 grams of fat, just because of the amount of volume that I eat. It really depends on how big of a volume you need, how much you eat. But for me, I do tend to be around 11 or 12 grams. Maybe that's an overestimate on the chronometer. I don't use it very often, just maybe once a month or once every other week. I'll plug in what I average to eating on every day, and it will come out to about 11.2 or something like that grams of fat. Maybe it overestimates, because I think it overestimates on the protein as well. And that is the second thing that I cut out. Protein is extremely toxic for the body in excess amounts. Your kidneys get overtaxed, your liver gets overtaxed. Your body just cannot handle a lot of protein. Matter of fact, if you read the China study found that they could literally turn cancer on and off by the amount of protein in the rats' diets. Now, they didn't test this on humans. They tested this on rats, but they could literally turn on and off cancer with the amount of protein that was being fed to these rats. It's crazy. So I stick that out of my diet. The reason I even went vegan, the reason I even looked into vegan, the reason I even discovered vegan was because my kidneys, my liver were struggling from the amount of protein that I was eating back in my lifting days. It couldn't handle it anymore. And I started smelling like ammonia. Like all the time. I smelled like cleaning product the entire day, every day, all day. I was waking up, throwing up stomach acid. It was an absolute hot mess. And I'm like, there's got to be something wrong. This protein thing, because that was the bulk of my diet, that and fat. And I'm like, there's something wrong with this. And my ex, at the time was not quite vegan, but pretty close. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, I always made fun of these people, back in the day. I had to try it out. I just had to. I didn't have a choice, because I was dying. The doctors didn't seem to find anything wrong with this. I'm like, how is this not wrong to you that I smell like ammonia all day? And they're like, oh, well, we'll just, we'll give you a sweat gland blocker. I'm like, what? I mean, what the hell is that going to do? What is that going to do? So you stop sweating. Like, that's a good idea. I'm like, how is that a good idea to you? And they're like, well, we don't know what to do, because we're useless. If you go, like I was on a hike yesterday, this woman had a compound fracture. I seen her bone sticking out of her leg. The cops were there, the ambulance was there. And if you have something like that, you are in good shape with a doctor. They, in general, can stretch that back out so it snaps back in place, put you in a cast, send you on your merry, and they're pretty good at that. They're pretty damn good at that. If you want almost anything else done, I don't know. I wouldn't go to them, but I'm not a medical doctor. I can't make medical advice. This is not medical advice, just so you know. So they're good at that, but in my experience anyway, and I've gone to a lot of hospitals in 2 different states, not 4, 2 different states, and it has just been a smorgasbord of retarded. It's like, this over here doesn't work, this over here doesn't work, this over here doesn't work. So I had to self-diagnose, and I found vegan. I know this is a long tangent that I just went on, but it just, the protein was destroying my body, even still to this day. Like I made the beans, black bean soup that I absolutely love for McDougal Saturday, and I'm still paying for it because it had a lot of protein in it. So apparently I can't even make that anymore because my kidneys, I don't think that they're ever going to go back to full capacity. Maybe they will. Maybe if I went raw vegan and did, the meditation, the breath area for years, I don't know, maybe they would, but I'm not going to do that. And so I really have to watch my protein intake. I just can't have it too high. And that is why I came onto the vegan, and I really strongly suggest that of all macronutrients, protein is the most dangerous. Fat will keep you fat, but your body has an unlimited capability of gaining fat. And women especially have, it doesn't even change your motor mechanism when they gain it on the hips and the butt and everything. It doesn't even change the way you walk. It doesn't change your mechanics or anything. Your body has the ability, much more than men, to gain fat. And where it gains, I mean, I like it. I have no problems with it. But it's just, so fat I would stay away from, but it's nowhere near as dangerous as protein. Nowhere near. So keep the protein low. I don't really like, I've got a lot of people who ask me if I eat beans. I don't really suggest it. I know McDougal does. I'm not a fan. I think it's anabolic. Anabolic means building, adding. So it's gonna kind of conflict with what you're trying to do if you're trying to strip body fat. And the last thing that I cut out is salt. Now, I've heard so many different things about salt. I personally don't like the way salt tastes at all. Never have, never added it to anything that like, even when, like, I've gone to restaurants, matter of fact, like high-end restaurants, like, like some of these celebrities have restaurants and stuff like that. And the stuff is so salty, I couldn't even eat it. I'm like, are you trying to kill people? I'm like, I can't eat this. And they get, the chef is like, got Michelin. I'm like, Michelin star. I'm like, what does tires have to do with the food? And they're like, that's not what that is. I'm like, I don't care. It's too salty. And they're like, like huffing off and everything. Like, I'm like, get the shit out of here. Like, I don't want it. Right. So I've never added salt to anything, but I did notice recently that when I would go over my parents' house, like usually on a Sunday or something like that, the rest of that day I would really look better. And the next day my performance on the bike or whatever I did would be like way better. And I was thinking maybe it's the additional calories from the fat, because I usually, like, my mom would make like cowboy caviar or something with avocado. And I don't like, she's so happy to make this stuff for me. I'm like, I'll have a little bit. But I think it was actually the salt in the chips, because she make these chips and she's all excited about this, and they add a lot of salt to their food, and it was the salt. And so when I added the salt back in, now I don't use actual salt. I'll just use soy sauce. I'll use that barbecue sauce that I've shown in a couple of my videos, the Japanese barbecue sauce, which is like a combination of soy sauce, teriyaki, and like a sweet-ish barbecue sauce. It's kind of like the three of them kind of had a baby and created something real. And that's really good. So I add that. I add nori wraps. I'll wrap my rice and nori wraps, just different things that have actual natural salt in them. I know it's not natural salt in the barbecue sauce, but the salt in the nori wraps is actually natural salt. It's just from the sea. So I think I assimilate that a little bit better. I cannot add salt like from a shaker into it. Maybe the pink salt, but I have it. I stay away from it. So anyway, that is the 3 things that I have subtracted from my diet. The one that I really just cannot eat at all in large quantity is protein, and I don't think anybody should be doing that. She stopped talking to me again. I got this acquaintance. It's like texting me the other day. Well, gosh, this is probably 2 months ago now. Like, oh, I'm adding 150 grams of protein into my diet because I go hiking a lot. I'm like, I don't even eat 100. I didn't even eat 150 grams when I was lifting. You're like up to here on me and like half my weight. I don't know why you would need 150 grams. And so she gets mad, huffs off. These people who really are protein addicts, they get mad when you're like, bro, stay away from it in high quantities. I mean, obviously the body is built from it, but the muscles actually store glycogen. They don't store protein. It's a razor's edge with that. And then fat, obviously, if you want to get fatter, eat fat. If you want to get more slender, skinnier, whatever you want to call it, then subtract the fat from your diet, the overt fats. You can't obviously take it out of the rice, but you can actually, like, brown rice has a lot more fat than white rice. And I don't know why brown rice even exists other than take the shell off and make white rice out of it. But that's just my thoughts on that. I haven't really subtracted any particular food, just macronutrients. I can't really, other than tofu, like I said, I subtracted. That's protein and fat. So, I mean, that's like both of the things that I don't like to eat in one block of blob. So, I know they have it in Japan and China and all the Asian countries where they're skinny, but they don't have insulin resistance in the first place. Now, I didn't go over insulin resistance in this. I guess I can a little bit. So when you add fat and carbs into your diet at the exact same time, when you eat them together, it causes something called the Randle cycle. And what happens is the fat coats the receptor sites of the cell, and the cell can't take in the carbohydrates, which is what it really wants. And so your pancreas keeps releasing insulin until the cell can finally get the carbohydrates, because your bloodstream isn't supposed to have much more than 5 to 10 grams of carbohydrates in it at any time. It wants it in the cells. It being in the bloodstream doesn't do you any good. It being in the cells, the mitochondria, it does a lot of good. Those are powerhouses of the cell. They run off carbohydrates. Your brain runs off carbohydrates. Everything runs off carbohydrates. So if it can't get it because the fat receptor or the receptors are blocked by fat because of the Randle cycle, then this is what causes insulin resistance. And the less fat you have in your system, the less you're going to go through this Randle cycle. Now, you are going to notice, if you're one of these people that goes and gets a blood test all the time, your triglycerides are going to go up quite a bit when you drop off the fat from your diet, because your body does use fat as fuel. It does. It's not going to strictly use carbohydrates. So what it does is it starts dumping out the triglycerides out of your, the undercarbed lights in this house. It will start dumping out the fat that you've been storing, and it's going to come out as triglycerides, and that is going to be in your bloodstream quite heavily. So people start freaking out like, oh man, I got all these triglycerides in me. And the reason for this is your body's just dumping this stuff out of your system. A lot of people who come onto this might gain weight for a little while, right? But one day you are going to just dump a ton of weight in a month. Like I dumped 30 pounds literally in over Lent, which is 40 days. I mean, 30 pounds just gone, right? But I did do raw vegan, but my calories were very high, like very high. They weren't in the beginning. I was struggling with it a little, and then I got them really high, and I lost 30 pounds in that month. This is how it's always gone for me. I will just dump a ton of weight in one sitting, and then it might take a little while. I can tell that it's happening again. I don't really weigh myself because I don't want to get depressed like, oh, it was only 4 pounds. So I just don't weigh myself. But I can tell that it's happening again. My clothes are fit. Matter of fact, it looks like a pregnant woman was wearing my clothes before, because a lot of them, the gut is stretched out, and now it just kind of just hangs there. It's kind of ridiculous looking, but I don't really, I don't like buying new clothes at all. And B, I'm not going to buy them until my body is like kind of where I think it's going to be. So anyway, that's my video. Hopefully it did you some good. If it did, share it, like it, comment, questions down below. I can't really think of anything else to talk about on this topic, but if you have enough questions, I'll make another video like this, and I'll talk to you next time.